Welcome back. You're watching World News, where every word matters, with me here, Anna Kalczyńska. Good morning. Bow before the king. Pay close attention, since here comes a new era in social media. Not only Elon Musk's X platform, but also Facebook and Instagram will now on support Donald Trump's policies. Mark Zuckerberg announced his views on content moderation have changed. We are going back to our roots and will restore free expression on our platform. Now, what implications will this decision have on the political arena in European Union, where many elections are due this year? And what will be the legal response, and what are the legal instruments in the European Union to counterbalance this approach? To discuss this, I'm joined by Dorota Haller, the Vice President of IAA Poland. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let us clarify a little bit what's going on, because curbing political content was a direct result of Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2010. Since the algorithms were misused for political purposes, with proved Russian interference at that time, Facebook banned the political content. So has anything changed since that time? And we've observed numerous examples of political interference on Facebook platforms and on Instagram and everywhere else. So how can Zuckerberg argument hold?
Well, it's a great question. I think it's actually bigger than Zuckerberg and than Meta. It's a question about responsibility of your business. It's a question about responsibility of platforms. Because the narrative is that these platforms give users freedom of speech, which is, a big deal in the United States and in the free world. But who takes responsibility of the user-generated content, which is not moderated? And I think this is the discussion. Can he be accountable? In my opinion, of course. And in European
Union, he should be accountable.
It should be, yes, it should be. He should be accountable, or the owners, leaders of the big tech and the platforms should be accountable. And in the EU, we have the so-called DSA, which is the Digital Servicing Act, launched a few years ago, and now is the moment of truth. Is EU over-regulated? This is number one. And are we able, as a continent, to actually reinforce the regulations and say, now check, and now we are going to, go according to the rules? And I think this is a very big deal for Europe right now, whether we're going actually to do it or not.
Exactly. So in your opinion, how is the freedom of expression and free speech, praised by Zuckerberg, going to influence Facebook and Instagram? How can those platforms change?
Well, he uses hard words like censorship. It's not about censorship. It's about taking responsibility. And the DSA, which I mentioned a moment ago, is about showing the regulators the actual mechanism, algorithms. We don't know how this works. We don't know the inside mechanisms of those platforms. We don't actually know, as users, why we're giving this content and not another. We live in those bubbles. And people who are aware of this, it's great, because they are aware that they will be fed content that's interested to them, because the platforms pretty much want the users to be more active, because it feeds the algorithm, and then you have more interactions, and it grows business. I mean, that's at the end of the day what it's all about. So again, it's very important to take responsibility for the owners and leaders of the platforms. It's not only about Meta, so Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, but it's about, the huge case of Elon Musk and X. It's about taking responsibility and reinforcing regulations.
So let me quote Zuckerberg, who says, after Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address these concerns, but the fact-checkers have just been too politically biased, have destroyed more trust than they've even created, especially in the US. So it's a complete change of the paradigm. How is it even possible, after all the explanation that Mark Zuckerberg, and here we are seeing him in front of the United States Commission, right? He was responding, he was clarifying, he was trying to justify those decisions not taken at that time. And here, he's completely changing the whole philosophy.
Well, I think there are two
Is it
aspects.
even tangible? I mean, what effect can it be?
Two aspects. One aspect is political correctness, or maybe it's the wrong word. One aspect is, you know, all of these platforms are trying now to get relationship with the future administration of the United States. I mean, let's face it, this is about business. So with the administration of President-elect Donald Trump. And I think this is very significant and very noticeable. And the second thing is, they constantly change their paradigm, if you, as you said, or their narrative, right? You cannot not take responsibility of your business, because your business, and this is strong words, but I believe it, actually can run the world. Look what happened in Romania. I mean, with elections, recent elections, consumers, users, society now takes their news and their information from social media platforms, not from legacy media, I'm sorry to say that. Mm-hmm. And this makes it even more important that legacy media have conversations like we are having now and educate users, consumers, readers, and viewers why you should have this critical thinking and understand that if I read something on Facebook, but who created this content? Is it content created by somebody you can trust, or is it content created by, I don't know, bots, political parties, machines?
All right, so how can Europe defend itself? What measures do they have?
Well, in Europe, I'm a European Union citizen, so I say we have the Digital Services Act. This act pretty much says that platforms working in Europe or operating to European citizens have to have clarity and have to show how the algorithms work, on which basis they feed us, the users,
yes,
information.
This discussion is going on, and nothing has, it didn't get any results so far. So now?
This is now the question, whether the law is just, you know, in somebody's drawer and catching dust, or whether the law is going to be enforced. And to be honest, this is the moment of truth about Europe, if we can do it or not. And if we cannot do it, then big tech will run the world, will rule the world, and this is a very scary thought. And it's not about, you know, limiting businesses, but it's about fighting misinformation and creating also cybersecurity, because this misinformation is not only about our lives, businesses, economy, but it's about leading the world, because it's about elections. And we have such an unstable situation in Europe right now. With, you know, Germany, I can name a lot, but it's just unstable. Europe, for a very first time in a long time, is unstable, and social media can or feed this instability. So the question is whether European Commission will say, you know, excuse me, now, and whether they will get a global, it needs to be global reinforcement.
But
and
does
partnership.
it have to be global? Because, for instance, Brazil shut down Facebook on its territory and made Meta get to the negotiation table.
Yeah.
Now we hear that Tirana is coming down on TikTok with a year ban after the fatal stabbing of the 14-year-old. So some measures are being taken, but unilaterally by different member states, or as we see in other parts of the world. And maybe this is a certain way of dealing with Meta.
It for sure is, because DSA is not only about legislation, it's also about enforcement. You know, if the law is just law, it means nothing. It has to be enforced. And if the partners working under European law do not enforce it, then we have to have tools and measures to actually get this implemented. And I think European Union, obviously for the European Union citizens, it's about us. But as you said about Brazil, I think it's a global issue, and I think it should be dealt with globally. Because frankly, these huge platforms, sometimes they feel like they can do anything. You know, Mr. Zuckerberg says that it's about freedom of speech, and then he says it's not his responsibility because it's user-generated content. But he has to have fact checker, or he doesn't have, but he used to have fact checkers. And why it was introduced, exactly as you said, because of the Cambridge Analytica scandal. And it's just growing on us. It's not getting any better. So we need more law, but also reinforcement, so implementation.
Incredible. It's a fascinating time that we're living right now because from my perspective, we are observing also those big personalities, big media moguls who are completely going independent, and there's not a single authority, global authority, which could somehow make a dialogue with them and impose stricter rules.
But it's also about this, that the world and technology is changing so fast, and that the legislations are not able to follow. And I think that the cooperation between the world of academia, the world of tech businesses, and the world of regulators, they need to work together somehow. And there has to be bodies, there are bodies in the European Union that work together, because otherwise, regulators don't understand how this whole thing works in terms of tech and in-depth tech knowledge. Mr. Thierry Breton, it's all on him kind of now, the European Commissioner for Internal Affairs. I'm not sure if this is exactly his title, but he's responsible for the DAS implementation. For now, I think he either shows European strength or he doesn't. And it's the moment of we make it or we don't. And if we don't, to be honest, Anna, I don't know. It's a scary thought.
Dorota Haller, Vice President IAA Poland, was our guest today. Thank you very much for your comments and your insights.
Thank you for having me.
And that concludes this edition of World Talk. But please stay tuned to TVP World for more news coming.